Some might say it's the most magical time of the year. No, not Christmas. Mother's Day. Well, hello everybody, Anthony here. Welcome back to another maternal episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. Before we jump into that good, a few things I'd like to ask you to do. So today's episode is going to be a lot of fun. Putting this episode out the week of Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, first and foremost, to all you amazing, hot, single moms out there in particular. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Duh. I know sometimes, especially if you have little kids or you're just the only adult in the house, period, sometimes it could be hard feeling appreciated during this time of year, because maybe your kids just can't really articulate how much you mean to them right now. But I want to articulate how much you all mean to me, how much you all mean to your families. You're showing up, you're doing the things, you're figuring it out, and we love to see it. So round of applause, all the flowers in the world to all you single moms out there. Happy Mother's Day. But yeah, as I was saying, today's episode is going to be a lot of fun because I'm actually going to be joined in a moment by my own mother. Yes, that's right. And this is for a particular reason, though. So earlier this week, or maybe even last week, I had somebody just share with me their experience as a mother. This person's not a single mother, but she is a mother of 2 little kids, and her husband has a job that takes him away from the family for big chunks of time throughout the year. So there's times where weeks actually, she or the kids just don't get to see her husband, and she just has to man the fort back at home, and she has to take care of the kids by herself. And so she reached out to me and she was talking to me about the reality that there are sometimes moms and dads out there who function as single parents, even though they might not technically be single parents, just because of the nature of what their spouse does for work. And that really got me thinking back to my childhood because, and I'll let her explain more about our family and her story here in a moment, but thinking back to my mom raising me and my siblings in the reality that my dad was in the military when I was growing up. He retired when I was early preteens, teens, but for a good chunk of my life, he served. So there would be big chunks of time where he would have to be on deployment and he would have to just do his thing being in the military. And so my mom would have to, with 4 kids at home, 4 young kids, have to manage everything at home. So I want to hear from her reality, kind of living through that, what that was like. I'm sure looking back, it was probably very hard, probably very stressful, me and my siblings were probably super annoying at points, obviously. And so I just want to hear from her and kind of get her testimony as to what it's like being a married single parent sometimes. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be good. And, what better day to have my mom on the podcast than Mother's Day? It all worked out. It's all going to be legit, so stay tuned. But before I bring my mom on and we get into that good, a few things I'd like to ask you to do. First things first, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button, ringing the bell, turning on notifications. That way you never miss an episode in the future. Second thing is you can share the podcast with a friend, with a family member, with your own mother. Can't think of a better gift for Mother's Day than to give them a podcast of some random guy in his living room. I get just no better gift out there. I guarantee it. So you can do that. And then last but not least, only do this if you think the show deserves it. Maybe consider rating the podcast 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite platforms. That way we can tell the algorithms out there that the show is legit and it'll pass it along to more people. This episode is brought to you by me at Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development. Single parents, are you looking to take control of your career and financial future? Well, my finance firm is currently recruiting new agents with a business model similar to real estate. Here's how it works. Let me break it down. First, we'll get you connected with our brokerage, and then we'll help you get fully licensed to work in the financial industry. We fully train you to go out and help clients reach their financial goals and dreams. And something pretty awesome is that no past experience in this industry is required. We're just looking for people who are ready to make an amazing change right now, because I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of people out there who are a little anxious when it comes to money and the economy and tariffs and 401ks and retirement. And we just, as a firm, we're growing, we're expanding at a crazy rate because there's so many people out there who legit just need some good people to help them. And maybe one of those good people could be you. Reach out and let me know if you might be interested in learning more. I'd love to sit down and talk with you to see if this might be a good fit for you and your family. Yes, that's Anthony Crosby, Talent Acquisition and Development, where change starts now. All right, everybody, if you're watching the video version of the show, you can see our guest is here. But for you audio listeners, I would love to introduce to you all my fantastic mother. We have Denise here on the show. Is this your first time on the Single Parents Podcast? I've done other stuff.
I think so.
Wow.
I think on this podcast.
Okay, yeah. My sister's been on a couple of times. Tried to get my brothers on. That wasn't a success. But this is your first time on the show. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And happy Mother's Day, by the way. This is our Mother's Day episode. I know we're recording
getting it in there
a little before Mother's Day, but happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm actually here at my parents' house because my niece is celebrating her first birthday today. So
happy birthday, Savannah.
How does it feel having fun? And all my kids are here. So how's it here? Yesterday we had everybody here, all the grandkids, your kids. So how does it feel to have a house full of...
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Any grandma out there, I'm sure, can relate.
Yeah.
Having all the kids around, the grandkids around.
I guess I didn't even realize, like yesterday, yeah, everybody was here.
Was it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Everybody was here. So for context, though, so I have, obviously, there's myself, and then I have 3 brothers, and then a sister, and my, the third brother? What would he be? Corey would be my second brother, the third child overall. I guess.
You're confusing me.
There's so many of us. But he's married and he has a little daughter, and then obviously have my kids. And so, yeah, so total of, though, you have, as of right now, the recording of the show, you have 5 kids.
5 kids.
And then 4 grandkids.
4 grandkids.
All girls. All the grandkids are girls.
All girls.
And, yeah, so it was pretty cool having everybody here yesterday.
Oh, yeah, it was a blast.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Today's Savannah's birthday party, so it'll be fun going over there. Cool.
So I guess this is kind of interesting. This is because we're gonna go back in time for the context of what we're talking about on the show today, because I already kind of set everybody up. But to recap with you, we're talking about the reality of being a married single parent. So having a spouse who's there, legit, awesome, but they just work a job that takes them away from the home for large stretches of time. So maybe you're the parent who's staying home with the kids while the husband or the wife is away for big periods. And so that's kind of, I know, a big part of your story, a big part of your reality. I kind of let you break that down in here in a second. But I bet it's going to be interesting because I'm assuming that back in the day, when we start looking back, there were probably hard times when you were here by yourself with a bunch of little kids. And so now, fast forward now to where all those same kids you probably were tearing your hair out back in the day about are here and they're grown and they have their own kids right now.
Yeah, they grow up.
Interesting.
That's for sure.
Interesting. All right. But so I guess just to jump into your story, though. So when I talk about you being a married single parent, what exactly does that look like for you? Did it look like for you? Kind of just break us down what that whole life looked like for you.
Well, in the context of our family, we were a military family. So my husband, Anthony's dad, was in the Marine Corps. And so we would move around often and just live in different places. But in the military, they have what they call deployments. And I'm just saying this in case people don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure. Yeah.
they might be like, oh, we already know that. But anyway, you have deployments. And so throughout the about 16 years that I was married to your dad, with him being in the military, he did, I think, 3 or 4 6-month deployments. And he did 1 full year deployment.
Wow.
And then some 3 months in between there. And so as a military wife or spouse, there's a lot of times when you're just
Wow.
home alone and raising the kids. And then but one thing that I would just a question I have on my mind, because I know like sometimes single parents can get kind of irritated when they hear that, because then it's like, well, that's not the same, because yeah, you're home, you're home by yourself, but there are some differences. And so there's some similarities from a person who is, let's call it a part-time single parent versus a person who's by themselves 24/7, 365 days a year, And so the similarities would be, like during those stretches where same kind of thing, it's just relying upon one parent. In my context, at that time, I had 4 kids. And if I was sick, too bad.
Yeah.
I had to just deal with it. But then the difference would be you have that, what would you call it? The security of knowing there's that other paycheck there, whether that parent is home alone, but maybe they are working outside the home, maybe they're not working outside the home, but there is that security that there's that other paycheck coming in. And so what do you feel on that? Like when you hear that, does it kind of make you feel a certain way, or what do you think?
I think it's interesting that you bring it up, because I think that there are a lot of similarities, because like you said, the practical side of it, like if you get sick, too bad. If you have to go to the store, then you got to take all the kids to the store. If you want to go hang out with your friends, you got to find a sitter, like all those practical things. But I think the mentality piece, I wonder how that compares, because I think for the part-time parent, they have the mentality of like, well, this is hard, but in a couple of months, my husband will be home, or my wife will be home, then I will have some help. So at least they have like an end date, versus like a single parent, it's like, oh, this is just my reality for the long haul. So it's just super exhausting and maybe defeating, because like, I don't know if this situation's ever going to change. I guess I could meet somebody and get remarried and that would change, but that's not a guarantee compared to, hey, my husband will be home from firefighting in a couple of months.
Yeah.
But I think to the mentality piece, though, I think there's something to the fact that I know mentally that this is my reality all of the time. So I've mentally shifted to just adapting to this being how it is all the time. So for the full-time single parent, this is just how it is. And so I think they've just become even just accustomed, because you've talked to a lot of single parents. They're like, yeah, like, I don't even know if I would change it, because this is life and we have our routines and this is just how it is. So honestly, bringing somebody else into the fold would be kind of annoying and inconvenient, versus, like I said, the part-time parent, to where they're mentally maybe even more exhausted, because they're like, mentally, when I signed up to get married, it was supposed to be a team.
Yeah.
And I am married. I have the ring on the finger, but we're not functioning as a team. And not at fault because of anything bad. It's just because of my spouse's job. We're not a team right now. So maybe that would bring up some extra frustrations, because it's like, I'm married, but I'm still alone. How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, there's pros and cons, but I think mentally, there could be aspects of it that are probably frustrating on both sides.
Yeah.
And even like you said, financially, like at least, well, like I'm sure we'll talk more about this in a second, but the parent who's at home while the spouse is working, mentally, at least they know, like, if I choose not to go out and get another job, we're not going to be evicted because my spouse is still having a paycheck, versus the single parent. They don't have a choice, because if they don't work, they have to pay the bills themselves.
Because it's just then at that point a one income family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have a great compassion for that,
Yeah.
that those of you out there who are like my son Anthony here, I mean, that takes a lot. But one thing that you said that kind of brought something to my memory is when your dad would come home, that's a real transition, what you said, because then you get used to, for those 6 months or 3 months, running things, getting everything running smoothly, getting the kids where they need to go, and then all of a sudden, your dad would come home, and that would be a disruption. How do you say? Disruption.
Yeah, sure.
In the system, because now it changes things again, because now, dad's home, and now it's going to work this way and that. And so that was a real transition.
Even can imagine, like, your attentions now went from 100% to the kids to now your spouse is there, and you want to make sure your spouse feels like cared for and seen. And especially, you spent all this time away, 6 months away, like you want to have that time, but your kids are accustomed to having all of your attention. So that's a good point.
So it is a real transition period.
Okay, so for those listening to this episode, because I imagine there's going to be people who listen to this episode who can relate. So maybe military spouses, or as I mentioned, my friend who gave me this idea, this is a wife of a fighter, traveling sales, whatever the job is. So somebody listening to this show now, maybe is home with their little kids, spouse is gone, they're just kind of feeling like, what am I supposed to do? What would you say to that parent right now who's listening to this, who might be in the middle of that reality?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say would be get support. I know for me, being a military wife, that was a big thing, just having a support system around me. Sometimes I wasn't. Well, a lot of times, your grandparents, my mom and my stepdad, I mean, I was really blessed in the sense that oftentimes they would move close by to where we were stationed. I don't know if you realize that, but pretty much everywhere we were stationed, within 6 months to a year, they would eventually move into the town we were living in. And so I know that's not everyone's circumstance. But even for me back in the day, just having other friends, other mom friends, or just other people who could relate to the circumstance I was in was a big deal for me. I often joke because when the kids were little, a big thing for me, like if we just moved to a new place, I would be the mom with my stroller, double stroller, whatever it is, just pushing through the neighborhoods, just trying to meet someone. And then I would see a lady or a mom down the road, and I'm just booking it along with my stroller, because I knew the importance of having just that support. And so I would just say that just don't do it alone. Get whether it's family, your church member, whatever situation you're in, just, get a good support system around you.
Yeah, that's good. So would you recommend, because I think this is such an interesting and unique situation because you're kind of in the middle of like both type of demographics, because you have like single parents who can relate to being alone with kids and know what that's like, but you also have the married people who know what it's like to be married and still have a spouse to think about and blah blah blah. But like, so you're kind of in the middle. So would you just suggest like finding who you could find, or is there a certain type of friend group that you would more gravitate towards, like those who could really relate to being alone with your kids, or would you find more married people, even though maybe their spouse is around, but at least they're married, so they understand? Like, what type of group would you gravitate towards?
I know for me, I gravitated more towards people who were in the same situation that I was in.
Okay.
Like that like-mindedness, because like in my situation, being a military wife, having other military wife friends, they could relate to the things that I go through. But that's not saying you don't have other friends, because also if just even having mentors and different people in your life who are maybe older or maybe in a different season that you're in, that could speak so much encouragement to the circumstance that you're in. So I would say, yeah, to both sides.
Okay.
Get people who, and I would think that applies to anything, when you're in a, whether it's an occupation or whatever,
Sure.
you have people within that same occupation that can relate to what you're going through. And so, but I wouldn't limit it into to not going outside of that group. But it's kind of hard for me to answer that from this point of view right now, because in my situation as a military wife, living on base, that's just were the people
Right.
that were,
Yeah.
in the circumstance that I was in. And then oftentimes, so say if it was a 6-month deployment, then you had other spouses whose spouses were deployed at the same time. And so that was just for that season, that was my people,
Okay. All right. All right. So that's a good tip. Any other pro tips that you would throw out?
Okay. So my next one I would say is self-care. I think that, I know we talk about that more now in our society, but think about 20 something years ago, that just wasn't being talked about as much.
True.
But it's very important. And I know the reality when you're a single parent, you're home, and it's just you. Obviously, you got responsibilities. You got to take care of the kids. You got to get them the sports activities and the practices and the doctor's appointments and this on and on and on.
Yep.
But I think that it's just important to find your self-care for yourself, because mentally, when you're doing all right, that affects the whole atmosphere of your home, and you can respond better just instead of reacting. That's a big difference.
That's true. Yep.
Responding over just reacting.
Yeah.
But I know for me, exercise has always been, I don't know if you remember, but I've always had some kind of exercise routine, one way or another. And then even the simplest things, like I like to take baths. And so that was a big part of my, put you guys to bed, go take some baths. And a silly one was, I don't know if you remember, my sunflower seeds.
Oh, yeah, I do. Yep.
That's a simple thing, but I would love it at night. I would put all the kids to bed, and then I would just sit and eat a bunch of sunflower seeds. And that was my time where I could unwind. And no matter what was happening during the day, I knew there was going to come a point in time where I could sit and eat my sunflower seeds. And so, but do you, how about you? It's self-care.
Oh, yeah. Self-care is huge. I think it's so important because I think it's just easy. I talked about this on the show a lot. It's easy to make your whole identity just your circumstance when it comes to even just parenting. Like, I am just a mom or a single dad, or in this context, I am just a military wife or a firefighter wife or a whatever. And so this is just my whole thing. And I would often say, like, that sure describes stuff about you, but it's not you. And so you have to make time and effort, whether it's exercising or eating sunflower seeds. Or I remember times where now I know what you were doing, that you needed this, but there'd be times where me and my siblings probably going crazy, and you would just go in your room and just shut the door for, like, it wasn't long, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes or something like that. And me and my
Yeah.
siblings
Actually, that was my closet. I had a big walk-in closet, and I wasn't afraid to use it.
yeah.
I would just take a minute, go upstairs, go into my closet,
Yep.
and then I was able to come back and deal with the
Deal
situation.
with our craziness. But I think it's funny. We knew, like, oh shoot, if mom goes in there and shuts the door like that, like, she's gonna come out. We're gonna be in trouble. So, like, I would try to, like, direct the kids. I'd be like, all right, so let's just do what she asked us to do, and, like, and so, like, we tried to be as, like, button up and perfect by the time you came out, as we do. Like,
And then I'm ready to deal the consequence.
Our video games would be yanked and put up on top of the shelf, and we'd have to deal with it. But now it's interesting looking back as an adult and knowing and respecting and appreciating that you did take those times to, like I just got to remove myself. I got to go breathe. I got to do whatever. Because there's times where I have to do that now. And I'm like, see, this is what my mom was doing. Because otherwise you are, like you said, caught in the react mode to where you're just parenting in an unhealthy way, because you're just letting your instant in the moment emotion take over. And that's not always the best thing to do. But I guess a question I have for you, specific with what we're talking about today, the part-time parent, the idea of self-care, and maybe through that 6 months to a year stretch where the spouse is gone, and you even in your own routine find that in eating sunflower seeds or going on walks or whatever, you get that. But then what does that look like when your spouse comes back and your spouse does want to have a lot of your attention, or maybe you feel guilty about taking some time to go off with your friends or go to a movie or doing something yourself, because you're like, well, I have been away from my spouse for 6 months. I don't want to tell him or her, hey, I need to go have coffee with my friend. Like, what does that look like? Did you know that at Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development, not only are we recruiting the next top talent in the financial service industry to come in, get licensed and trained to help a lot of people and make a pretty good living doing it, we also connect individuals and families with licensed financial strategists who love nothing more than sitting down with people and helping them accomplish and succeed in their financial goals and dreams. Thinking about retirement? Do you think it's possible you could leave generational wealth to your children? Speaking of your children, do you know if they're properly protected if something unfortunate were to happen to you? Single parents out there, where are your kids gonna go? Who are they gonna be placed with if something dire does come your way? We sit down, we help break it all down. We come up with solutions that are best for you and your family. And the amazing part about this whole thing, our appointments are 100% free. Yep, all you gotta do is get in touch with us, and we'll put you in contact with the financial strategist who will make sure that everything is properly planned out for your financial future for free. We also have an amazing referral program for professionals and business owners who might be looking to add an additional revenue stream to their portfolio. Yes, we're talking about real estate agents, mortgage brokers, property managers, CPAs, and tax professionals. This might be an easy way for you to add additional revenue to your business model. Reach out to us one more time. That's Anthony Crosby Talent Acquisition and Development, where change starts now.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's where that transition comes in and why it's hard, because you're doing one thing one way and then all of a sudden you have to change it up. And so so I would just say, but some of those things were, I was saying, like exercise and things like
Okay.
that, that's where good communication with your spouse comes in, because those are things that it's just good overall.
Yeah,
And so
that's true.
if I was going Tuesday nights or whatever to the gym or whatever, then I would try my best just to keep up that routine. Well, now that I think about it, I would say the way it would change. So say like, so when your dad wasn't around for those 6 months, I couldn't just go to the gym two,
Yep.
3 nights, not all the time, because if one of you was sick or something was going on, I just couldn't do it because, it's just me. But then now when your dad came back, now maybe I could go do those 3 nights at the gym versus before I might have been exercising at home or, something like that.
Okay.
So of course you gotta change. You gotta be flexible, good communication. But I think just the most important thing get out of that is just take care of yourself. Because I think a lot of times we get into parenting mode, and like the way you phrased it, we just give 110% to our kids and think we need to, but giving some time to ourselves is important too.
I agree. All right. Any other?
Okay, so my last one is thrive and not just survive. Have joy.
Yeah.
And that one was one that I intentionally had to think about.
Okay.
Because I did get, for a while, I don't even know if you remember, you guys were young, because as I just kept having kids, kids and kids and kids, I found that I just got to a point where I was just yelling all the time and angry and, and then I was like, there just has to be more to parenting than this, that you have these kids and you go 18 years and then, okay, I'm done,
Yeah.
And so I just had to change my mindset on that, where sometimes maybe the dishes didn't get done right then and there. Maybe you didn't get all the laundry done that you wanted to that day, and just relax a little bit and enjoy these little people that you've been blessed with. And just, I don't know how good I did. I mean, you got to answer that, but, but yeah, I know that was just something that I would think about that. And even now, we were big at making home videos.
Oh yeah, we love that.
Well, I would say Anthony,
Shocker, right?
Shocker that he's been doing this ever since he could hold a video camera back in the day. I think your papa gave you a video camera. You were like, how old?
Oh man, I was young, 7 or 8?
Yeah. And so we have tons of home videos. But even now I go back and look at some of those videos, and believe it or not, I'm even surprised that I'm not yelling. I'm at peace. I'm in the kitchen. We're whipping up, baking something. I don't know. But even I was like, man, how did I get through that? But so yeah, just find some joy with the children that you have. And guess what? Like, I'm at the season now where my last of the 5 is graduating this year. This house of mine that has 5 bedrooms is becoming more and more empty. And I mean, I don't want to say that cliche where people say time goes by fast. These little kids are going to grow up quick, because sometimes, believe me, it didn't feel quick on some days. But now I'm in the season where I'm like, man, where did that time go? Because I'm not running kids to sport events. Right. I'm not, busy doing this and that. And sometimes I miss it.
Oh, wow.
But I'm glad that I can look back on it and just remember some of the happy times and the things that we did, and we can laugh. And just even you mentioning the obstacle course races that you guys used to have in the park when you were younger. And so, yeah.
I think that's really cool. I appreciate your perspective, because I'm obviously with my kids, they're young still, elementary school age. The perspective of me having them now and having the stuff, because we're in the middle of the stuff phase. So we do have sports, and dishes are piling up, and laundry needs to be folded, and homework and all this stuff. And so I easily get caught up in all that. But going back to my time as being raised by you and dad, like, you're right. Looking back, I don't remember obviously the times when the dishes maybe didn't get done. I don't remember the times where, all the little things that we get caught up in, then they don't matter. I remember the memories, and I remember making the home movies, and you taking us to the park, and us baking stuff, and us doing like little presentations to each other on slideshows and stuff like that. So it's interesting for me and humbling for me to think about, like, hey, at the end of the day, the stuff that I stress about or lose my mind over or let just impact the joy that I have as a parent, stuff that gets to me in 10, 20 years when my girls are grown and maybe they're having some of these conversations, they're not going to remember that. They're going to remember the time when I took them to the park or took them to the movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's really humbling. Yeah.
And it can be simple things.
Yeah.
Like getting Slurpees at 7-Eleven, Yep. It don't have to be these big old extravagant things, but sometimes it's the little things that add up,
That's good. So I guess last question before I wrap. So a big part of what we're doing on the show, the Single Parents Podcast we're doing right now, is we're really encouraging single parents or just people in general to step into maybe some changes that they need to make within themselves to further career opportunities, entrepreneurial stuff, just to make some big strides to do what you said, not just survive, but to thrive. Really encouraging people to think about that change. So from the perspective, though, of being a part-time parent, I think it's pretty interesting because we kind of mentioned this before, but say your spouse is traveling because they have a really great job and they're able to do that job to financially provide for the family, and you're at home with the kids. I could imagine, maybe you can correct me, but I could imagine there's this battle of like purpose sometimes when you're home with the kids, because maybe even your husband or wife has a cool job because they're out fighting fires or overseas or they're traveling and they do all these things, and here I am, I'm home with the kids, and I could go out and I guess get a job or I could start something, but like I don't need to because again, my husband pays the bill. So purpose wise, like it would just be, oh, that's nice, honey, I'm glad you're doing that little thing type thing. So a parent who is at home with the kids and maybe is struggling with that sense of purpose, like all I do is sit around with the kids waiting for my husband or wife to come home from work, how would you speak specifically to that?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to just say for any of you parents out there who are stay-at-home parents, that is important work.
Yeah, good.
In fact, I think that is like one of the hardest important jobs you can do for that fact, because you could have days where all you see is your 2-year-old or whatever, and and you can get the feeling of growing crazy. So I just want to say that it is important work. So I know for me, just finding little things to do was important to me. Like I would have little side jobs, and it wasn't even that about the money that you said. It was just about me just how would I say this, just strengthening my brain and doing different things. And it could be things like volunteering. That was big for me. I don't know if you remember one volunteering thing that I did was when we had new families move into our area. I would put together welcoming packages for them, and I would just go around I would have a list of new people that moved in, and I would have you guys, whoever was the baby in the wagon, and I would have you and your brother Chris with me, and we would go to these houses, pulling the wagon and going up to the doors and just welcoming them to the area. Remember that?
Yeah. I forgot about that till now.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah.
So, and then there was another time where I would help do budgets and loans for struggling military families, and so. Yeah, I would just find little things to do. And that was back, 20 years ago. I would think even now with the internet and, the little things that you can find to do, I'm sure I would have dove into that a lot more too. But yeah, I would say that if you feel like that, like you're in that situation, that there's just so much now that you can find to just be creative with and just use your mind, and then that goes back to again to the self-care, just finding what is going to stimulate you and just bring some joy in your life. And yeah,
that's awesome. Cool, good stuff. Well, you guys, if you think I'm decent at talking and communicating good points, you can see maybe where I get it from. That was good stuff. Thank you so much for joining in.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and happy Mother's Day.
Oh,
I gotta give some love for the camera.
Thank you.
But anybody, I just anything that you want to let the people know, anything to plug, anything you got going on?
No, I would just say I know that you started up this new business thing with financial advisors, right?
Yep. So,
and that's important because finance and having things in order and a budget and all these different things have been important, in our family. I know for myself and your dad, and so yeah. That's just a good opportunity that you're giving to other families, and just knowing where your money's going. That's important.
It's a big deal. Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's a big reason why I got into it. Is because our mission statement at the firm is just no family left behind. So I often think about our family, husband's away, young mom, 4 kids, just trying to figure out what to do. Like, I think about families like ours, families similar to ours. They just need help too, just like any other family out there, regardless of how much money they have or their circumstance. So yeah, we're excited to be doing that work. You guys can just see the links in the descriptions and everything else that we shared about that in the podcast. You can find that down below. So reach out if you either one, just need that type of assistance in education and support. We can connect you with the financial strategist who can help you for free. Just whenever we'll make that happen. Or 2, we talk about the finding your thing, finding what brings you drive and purpose and happiness. If you are a stay-at-home parent and you're looking for your thing, a big part of my role at the firm is finding people who are ready to step in and helping other families do a lot of those things that my mom mentioned. So I'd love to talk to you about that if you're looking for something pretty cool to do. But just let me know if you need anything. Our email for the show, again, is just thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com.
Okay. I want to say the ending with you. Your cat.
Do you know it?
Okay,
let's see. Let's do a little test. All right, let's see if you can do it. I think did Brandon? No, Miranda didn't know it. My sister didn't know it. So let's see if my mom knows it. All right. So this is gonna do it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. Until next time, my name is Anthony. This is Denise, and until next time, bye. Just stay beautiful.
Stay beautiful.
Bye. Sorry, my kids are just walking in. All right, they're telling me to wrap it up. All right. We gotta go. Bye.
That's a wrap.